Sierah Joughin disappeared on the 19th of July 2016 and was found dead 3 days later. On the day of her disappearance, Sierah had been enjoying an early evening bike ride with her boyfriend of 7 years, Josh Kolasinski. The pair kissed goodbye before parting ways. However, Sierah never made it home. An investigation begun, and what police were going to find was far beyond what anyone could imagine. Sierah Joughin, known as C by friends and family, was born in Sylvania, Ohio on the 11th of February 1996. Sierah graduated from Evergreen High School in 2014 and went on to study human resource management at the University of Toledo's Junior College of Business, alongside interning at her uncle's metal stamping business. It was whilst she was studying here that Sierah went missing. At around 6:45 p.m. on the 19th of July 2016, Sierah was riding her bike home from her boyfriend, Josh Kolasinski's house. Josh rode alongside Sierah on his motorcycle. The couple parted ways near County Road 6 near Metamora, Ohio in Fulton County, as Josh turned around to return home, and Sierah continued on to her own home. But Sierah never did return home. Sierah's mother, Sheila, was a bit concerned at first, as Sierah was close to her family and would have told them if she had plans to stay out. Sheila's concerns turned to panic when Josh contacted her to ask if Sierah was home, as he couldn't get hold of her on the phone. When Sheila couldn't reach Sierah either, she contacted the police, setting in motion a huge manhunt for the missing woman. Later that evening, Sierah's bike and her sunglasses were found in a cornfield near where she was last seen. Her bike had blood on the handlebars. There appeared to be signs of a struggle, as some of the stalks were broken, and there were motorcycle tracks through the cornfield. Several items not belonging to Sierah were found near her bike, including a pair of men's sunglasses, a screwdriver, and a box of automotive fuses. A passerby also recovered a motorcycle helmet with a bloody handprint on it. Sierah's boyfriend was not considered a person of interest, as his helmet was quickly accounted for. The FBI assisted local authorities with tracking Sierah through her Fitbit activity tracker and smartphone. Sierah's smartphone returned a signal several miles from where her bike was located. However, this did not lead to any new developments. Rewards ranging from $25,000 to $100,000 were offered in exchange for any information leading to Sierah's safe return. Officers began canvassing the neighborhood when a man named James Worley, who lived under 2 miles away with his mother and brother, told them his motorcycle had broken down in the area and that he had lost items similar to those found near Sierah's bike. Worley also told police that he had found 2 bikes in the cornfield, and he took one of them. Strangely, he added that he didn't steal anything or kill anyone. Another witness told police they had seen a van driving at high speed in the area. The license plate of this van was registered to James Worley. This information kick-started an investigation into Worley, as police discovered he had previously been convicted and sentenced in 1990 for assaulting and attempting to kidnap a woman who he knocked off her bike. James Worley was born in 1959 in Tacoma, Washington. He graduated from Evergreen High School in Metamora, Ohio in 1978. Worley worked several jobs in Toledo, Ohio, including farming and being a grounds crew member for several county fairs. Worley was a frequent user and seller of marijuana since the age of 14. In July 1990, Worley ambushed a woman named Robin Gardner as she was riding her bike in White House, Ohio. Worley hit Robin with his truck, struck her on the head, and put her in handcuffs. Worley held a screwdriver to Robin's throat and told her he would kill her if she didn't stop screaming. Fortunately, Robin was able to evade Worley's attempt to get her in his vehicle, and she was picked up by a passing motorist. Worley was arrested and ended up being convicted on abduction charges. He was sentenced to 4 to 10 years in prison, but ended up serving 3 years. Worley returned to prison once more in 2000, convicted of cultivating marijuana plants and possessing weapons while on disability. At the time, both were felonies. He was released 2 years later, and on his release, he started up a small business at his home, and was a licensed trailer transporter. Based on the information the police had, a search warrant was obtained for Worley's property. Whilst searching a barn on his property, police found a hidden makeshift dungeon behind some bay hails, in which several pairs of women's underwear, one with blood, and a carpet-lined freezer stained with blood was found. Restraints were attached to the walls, and there was a strong smell of bleach. Blood was found on Worley's motorcycle, as well as zip-tie restraints and a ski mask in his truck. Further investigations into cell phone records showed that Worley was at the abduction site for almost 2 hours during the time Sierah was missing. Some duct tape and an inflatable mattress found within the barn had Sierra's DNA on them. Disturbingly, recording devices were found all over the property. However, Sierah was nowhere to be found on Worley's property. It had been discovered that Worley had told a court-mandated therapist that following his previous conviction, he had learned from each abduction he had done and the next one he was going to bury. Worley was arrested on the day of the search, and later that day, Sierra's remains were found in a shallow grave in a field along County Road 7 in Delta, Ohio, just a few miles southwest of Worley's residence. Sierra's body was discovered intact and hog-tied. A large plastic toy was placed in her mouth, functioning as a gag, and she was wearing an adult diaper. An autopsy concluded that asphyxiation was the cause of death. The autopsy revealed no physical evidence of sexual assault. Sarah had contusions on her left leg and a laceration on her forehead. Sierra's upper left incisor was broken, and she had a hairline fracture inside the back of her skull. On the 16th of August 2016, Worley was indicted on 19 counts, including aggravated murder, kidnapping, felonious assault, abduction, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. He was jailed without bail. Worley entered a plea of not guilty at his arraignment, and prosecutors sought capital punishment for the aggravated murder charge. The trial began in March 2018 at the Fulton County Common Pleas Court in Wauseon, Ohio. During the trial, the prosecution alleged that Worley had been watching up until the crime was committed. On the day of the attack, Worley had searched using the words hitchhiker, helpless, gag, rape, hog-tied, stranded, forced. It was the prosecution's case that he then ambushed Sierra after encountering her by chance, striking her in the head with his motorcycle helmet, possibly knocking her unconscious. He waited in the cornfield until dark, during which time he phoned his brother to tell him his motorcycle had broken down. Once it was dark, Worley rode his motorcycle back home and then returned to the crime scene in his van, the one which a witness noticed speeding, to transport Sierra back to his property. Once back at his residence, it is believed he physically assaulted, hog-tied, and gagged Sierra. At some point, Sierra asphyxiated from the gag, which the prosecution alleged was Worley's intention, as it had been inserted with enough force to break a tooth. Worley then transported Sierra's body to the cornfield close to his property, where he buried her in a grave approximately 2 feet deep. Worley denied having ever encountered or assaulted Sierra. The defense argued that the evidence obtained from the barn, the underwear, handcuffs, and BDSM-related items, were all part of Worley's plan to open a studio. To explain why his items were found near Sierra's bike, Worley said that he had left them behind before the disappearance occurred, when his motorcycle had broken down. The defense argued that the helmet may have been used by someone else to assault Sierra, given the low concentration of Worley's DNA on it. A witness had also seen a man crouching in the cornfield while wearing red shorts. But since the search of Worley's property failed to locate any red shorts, the defense claimed that Worley could not have been the man in the cornfield. In their closing statement, the defense suggested Worley may have had an accomplice, and that he also had an incestuous relationship with his mother. The prosecution dismissed both claims, stating the gravesite was dug hastily, which would have required only one person, and there was little evidence to support such a relationship with his mother. The trial concluded on the 26th of March 2018, and Worley was found guilty of 17 of the 19 original charges, including aggravated murder. Worley's defence argued for a life sentence rather than the death sentence, describing him as a damaged man. Dr. John Fabian, a criminal psychologist and witness for the defence, suggested the attack was motivated by sexual sadism connected with a fetish disorder. Dr. Fabian claimed that Worley suffered with various mental health issues and diagnosed him with sexual paraphilia disorder. The prosecution argued that as Worley had an average upbringing and knew the difference between right and wrong, the aggravating factors of his crimes outweighed any disorders he may have. Prior to sentencing, Worley made a 45-minute statement which has been described as rambling. During his statement, Worley stated that he believed someone else was responsible for Sierah's abduction and murder, and they had left evidence to frame him. In a twisted moment, Worley turned to the victim's family and said, "Her loss is a substantial blow to everyone." Some of Sierah's family members later walked out of the courtroom when Worley referred to Sierah as a beautiful girl. The jury recommended capital punishment, which was agreed by the judge, who told Worley, "If I thought there was a snowball's chance in hell that you were innocent, you'd be looking at life." Worley was additionally sentenced to 11 years imprisonment for kidnapping, 8 years for felonious assault, 11 months for possessing criminal tools, and 36 months each for tampering with evidence and having weapons under disability. Since the 19th of April 2018, Worley has been held on death row at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution. His execution date was originally set for the 3rd of June 2019, but was delayed twice due to appeals. The appeals were denied by the court, and a new execution date of the 20th of May 2025 was set. Members of the community organised a Take Back the Roads memorial walk in Sierah's honour following Worley's arrest. On the 2nd of October 2016, Evergreen School District hosted a fundraiser called Joughin for Joughin, where a 5K run was organised to raise money for the Sierah Joughin Memorial Scholarship Fund and to ask for support for a violent offender registry bill being constructed by Ohio legislators. In July 2018, Worley's property was awarded to Joughin's estate and her family had the barn demolished. A settlement of $3.6 million was also reached. However, Joughin's family agreed not to execute the judgment unless Worley received a windfall sum of money, such as winning the lottery or receiving book or movie rights. In February 2017, Sierah's law was constructed after Joughin's family and other activists argued there was not enough information available to law enforcement and residents regarding convicted felons living in the area. Sierah's law allowed residents to visit their local sheriff's office to request a search to be performed for offenders with qualifying violent convictions. A non-profit charitable organisation called Justice for Sierah was established by Joughin's mother and aunt following the trial. The organisation provides self-defence training courses for schools and communities, as well as educating the public on community safety topics and Sierah's law. Sierah's mother, Sheila, said, "Sierah's life was worth far more than the 20 years she was able to live. She has inspired people she did not know, and I can only wonder what great things she would have accomplished if she was still alive. But in her death, I know she's moving mountains."